Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Quentin Hafner, and I am a marriage and family therapist. And I want to talk with you guys a little bit about personality differences. In this quick video, I want to give you guys some things to maybe think about. How do we make sense of being so different from our partners in long-term committed relationships? And does the cliche opposites attract, does that hold true for relationships? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And it's not uncommon for people to be in a long-term relationship, and at some point in that relationship journey, start to kind of question the personality differences that we have with our partner. We can be so different from our partners, and that can lead to a lot of conflict, a lot of frustration. And so I just want to talk about that a little bit, and just maybe give you guys a perspective on how we can make sense of personality differences in a way that can be productive for our relationships. Okay, so when we think about personality differences, it's really important to understand that that's different from what we can call character differences. So a personality trait is the way that we it's the way that we think, it's the way that we feel, it's the way that we act. Okay, and a character trait is something more about like our value system. It has more to do with morality. Okay, so here's just some quick examples of personality traits. Might be the difference between being extroverted and introverted, the difference between being a saver and a spender in a relationship, the difference between being more impulsive or being more methodical. And so those are examples of personality traits. And in all relationships, no two people have the same personality traits. So personality traits are going to be different in relationships, and we want to see that as a really good thing. Okay, that's not a bad thing. On the other hand, character traits are things that are about morality, and things that we can kind of look at almost in light of like our value system. Okay, so character trait is really important from personality trait, and that character trait is something that we actually want to be in great alignment with our partner. So that is kind of our worldview. It's maybe some spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs. It's do we share a similar morality between right and wrong, that these things are okay to do and these things are not okay to do. So it's really important that we make that distinction between personality trait and character trait. Okay, so personality trait is going to be very different for us in relationships, and that's not a bad thing. And hopefully we're in a relationship with somebody with similar character traits, because that's really important to be in alignment with for the success of a long-term committed relationship. But when it comes to personality trait, what I also want to talk about, what I want to maybe help explain to you guys, is that every personality trait has both a positive aspect and a negative aspect. Okay, so for example, if I'm really extroverted, let's say that's part of my personality trait, well, the positive aspect of that is that I can go to a social gathering, I can be really talkative, and I can engage with people, and I can meet people, and I can be kind of outgoing. So that's a really wonderful aspect of being extroverted. Okay. On the other hand, the negative aspect of a personality trait like being extroverted could be that maybe sometimes I'm just like too talkative. Maybe sometimes I'm too outgoing, and that when I'm with my partner, I can tend to kind of forget that she's more introverted, and I forget to be accommodating to her introversion because I'm so in the moment and focused on being extroverted and kind of doing my thing. Okay, so every personality trait has both kind of a good side and a bad side. Okay, and so we want to be aware of the good side and really celebrate that and honor that and appreciate that. And we also want to be mindful and thinking about, okay, well, if I am a saver, let's say I'm a saver in the relationship, and the good thing about that is that well, I'm gonna be more disciplined and maybe saving for retirement or saving money for us to buy a house. The bad side of that is that I can be too rigid, I can be too stubborn with finances. Okay, so I want you to think about every single personality trait has both a good side and a bad side, okay, or a positive aspect and a negative aspect. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about in regards to personality is that when it comes to personality traits, we want to just see them as being different. Okay, they're not good or bad; they're just different. Okay, so if I'm more extroverted and my wife is more introverted, her introversion isn't bad and my extroversion isn't good. We're just different. Okay, and it's not uncommon for people in relationships, if we've been together for some time, that we can start to put value judgments on our personality differences. We can start to say, oh, well, you're too introverted or you're too extroverted. And the reality is that our partners, the people that we are with in long-term committed relationships, they probably haven't changed that much over the years. So what happens is, in the very beginning of relationships, we are attracted to our partners because of the personality traits, okay, because of who they are. So if my wife is introverted, when I first meet her, I love that she's introverted. There's something really calming about that. There's something really just grounding about that. And so I'm drawn to her because of her kind of introverted nature, okay? And then what happens is, over the years in a relationship, over time, that same introversion that I was drawn to in the beginning, that same personality trait in her becomes the source of frustration, because then I say, oh, well, you're too introverted, and why don't you talk enough, and why didn't you say more? So the thing that we're drawn to in the beginning begins to be the thing that brings up so much frustration. And so I think it's really interesting, and something for all of us to think about, is that when we are first in a relationship, we tend to notice the positive aspect of our partner's personality trait. Remember, because every personality trait has a positive aspect and a negative aspect. So in the beginning, we tend to focus on the positive aspect, and then later on, years into the relationship, we tend to focus on the negative aspect. And so what happens is, in the very beginning, I'm drawn to my partner's personality traits, and then I spend so much time in the relationship over the course of years wanting them to be different, trying to change them, getting frustrated. Oh, there's a squirrel in the background. Trying to change them, being frustrated and saying, gosh, I wish you were different. But our partners haven't changed. They're the same exact people that we were initially drawn to in the beginning. So what's changed is our focus. Our focus has changed. We have shifted our mindset from focusing on what was good about them to, all of a sudden, our focus becomes what is bad about them, because it's bringing up lots of frustration and conflict for us, okay? And then what happens is people become really polarized, okay? So I'm just using this example about introversion and extroversion to illustrate a point. So if my wife is frustrated that I'm too extroverted, okay, and she says, oh, you talk too much, or you're too extroverted, then what happens for people is that we end up kind of digging our heels in, and we end up becoming really polarized. So we say, well, I am who I am, and I'm not gonna budge, and if you don't like it, that's your problem. And so we become polarized in that we find ourselves kind of living out on the poles. So I'm really extroverted over here, and she's really introverted over here. And basically each person is saying, hey, this is who I am, I'm not gonna change. And that becomes a real barrier in the relationship, because neither person is compromising, neither person is meeting each other halfway. We've kind of dug our heels in, and we've said, hey, this is who I am, and I'm not changing, okay? So in order for us to transition relationships, we need to be able to do a couple things in regards to personality to make it work for us, okay? Because we can't get into that really difficult power struggle where we are digging our heels in and we're not budging, because from a sense of goodwill in the relationship and from a place of getting along with each other, that will be the end of the relationship, because we will just become so guarded and so defensive, okay? So there's three things that I want to share with you guys that we can do to make this process a lot better for ourselves, okay? the first thing we have to do is that we have to kind of return to a sense of appreciation for how different our partner is from us, okay? And in order to do that, the first thing we have to do is we have to commit to ourselves that we are going to stop trying to change them, okay? So we have to stop trying to change them, and we have to see our partners for who they really are, and get into a mindset of really trying to celebrate how different they are from us, instead of feeling so frustrated that they're not just like us. And thank goodness my wife is nothing like me. I'm so happy about that, honestly. Yeah, when I'm frustrated and when there's conflict in the relationship, I can go to that place and be like, oh, well, if she was just more like me, things would be so much easier, things would be so much better. But the truth is, it wouldn't, okay? It wouldn't. That's just something I'm grabbing onto in the moment to try to help myself. But the reality is, our relationship functions best when we recognize how different we are, how complementary we are with one another, that she's different from me and I'm different from her, and together we create something really powerful, okay, instead of having two people that are just like each other, okay? So we have to return to a sense of appreciation with one another, and we have to start recognizing that we have to start kind of getting into the mindset of just seeing the positive aspects of our partner's personality traits instead of focusing on the negative. And in order to do that, we also have to recognize that our partner's personality is not bad. The personality traits that they have are not bad. They're just really different from us, okay? Because when we start judging our partner's personality as bad, then we put ourselves in this kind of authoritarian position that, we know better, or our way is right, and it creates kind of like a power imbalance in the relationship that will end up just feeling really icky, okay? So, that might mean that we have to kind of just spend time in solitude, just with ourselves, kind of in contemplation, where we're just thinking about our partner. Something that can be really helpful is just writing a list of, the top 10 things that you really love about your partner and how different he or she is from you. Writing that down and just keeping that somewhere where you can look at that, because sometimes in moments of conflict, in moments of frustration in the relationship, we need to be able to recall that. We need to be able to just look at that piece of paper and say, oh yeah, that's right. I do like those things about him or her. I do like those things about my partner, because when we're in the moment, we can just tend to forget, okay? So the second thing that we need to do in order to kind of overcome these personality challenges is that we have to learn how to kind of bridge the gap between each other, okay? And so what that means is that we're just trying to meet each other halfway. We are offering goodwill in the relationship, where if I'm extroverted and my wife is introverted, so I'm gonna say, okay, well, I'm gonna try to pull back on some of my extroversion, and she's gonna try to come up on some of her introversion. So we're trying to just meet each other halfway, instead of getting into that polarizations place where it says, well, this is just who I am. We never want to say that in a relationship, because it's not very relational, and there's no compromise in it, okay? So I want to be able to say, okay, well, I can totally understand how these parts of me don't really line up and work so great with you. I want to compromise. I want to bridge with you. I want to bridge the gap, and hopefully and ideally she's kind of doing the same thing. So we are coming together where we're recognizing these parts of ourselves, and we are working together to try to bridge the gap instead of getting into that polarized space, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do is appreciate each other, or kind of get into that mindset. The second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna bridge, or come together and bridge the gap. And the third thing that we're gonna do is that we are gonna just grow as people ourselves. So what does that mean? So we want to recognize that every personality trait has remember I said in the beginning, it has a positive side and a negative side, okay? And what we want to do is we want to continue working and growing on that negative side, okay? So let's say I'm a spender in the relationship, and my personality type is that I'm a spender. Well, what's the positive side of being a spender? The positive side of being a spender is that I'm more fun, I'm more spontaneous, I'm more kind of living in the moment. I'm not anxious about the future, and so I'm gonna use money to gratify myself, or even gratify the relationship, and that's an awesome thing. that is super great, right? That's super fun. And it brings a lot of joy and excitement into the relationship. But what's the negative side of being a spender in a relationship? Well, sometimes it can put the relationship in kind of like a financial harm's way. It can bring a lot of anxiety to the relationship. There can feel like a sense of distrust in the relationship, or a sense of irresponsibility in the relationship. So that's kind of like the negative side of that personality trait. So the third thing we want to do is we want to grow. Okay, I want to recognize that if I'm a spender, I want to recognize that there is that negative side of that personality trait, and I want to work on that. Okay, I want to do my own personal development work, and I want to grow in that area, so that that negative side of that personality trait doesn't become a limiter or a barrier to the relationship. And without judging myself or shaming myself or feeling bad about it, I'm just recognizing that every personality trait has a positive side and a negative side, and I just want to be really in tune and in touch with the negative side and how that might influence or impact the relationship. Okay, so the three things we're going to do, just to recap it again, is we're going to go into a gratitude mindset, go into an appreciative mindset. Okay, because if we don't do that, we're going to just focus and we're going to think about what's wrong and why it's not working and what's broken. And if we stay in that mindset, it's going to totally just kill the joy in the relationship, and we're going to only see what's wrong with our partner instead of seeing what's right with our partner. Okay, so we're going to go into that appreciative and gratitude mindset. The second thing we're going to do is that we're going to bridge the gap. Okay, we're going to work together to find that kind of middle space, to find that compromise, so we don't get polarized out on the end where we're digging our heels in the sand. And the third thing we're going to do is we're going to just grow. We're going to recognize that all of our personality traits, all of us have personality traits with kind of negative aspects to them, and we are going to be on our own personal development journey, trying to grow and trying to kind of modify that side of the personality trait so it promotes lots of goodness and goodwill and trust and safety in the relationship. Okay, so I hope that's helpful for you guys. Personality traits, it's a big deal in a relationship. It can bring up a lot of big feelings, and I know that sometimes people can feel confused about how to make sense of that. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful to you, and shoot me a message or shoot me an email if you have any questions. I'd love to chat with you about it. All right, cheers, bye.